All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rabbit Smirking Gun Reviews, and I was gonna stop where I left, where I ended on my best of TV, best and worst of TV 2018, but I ran out of juice on my phone, and I didn't get to say everything I wanted to say. And I was checking out the video I made, and realized I don't feel like stopping. There was more to talk about. So I'm here to do part 2 of this, and maybe it's overkill, maybe it's not, but I didn't get to talk about some things that I really wanted to get to. And hopefully next year I'll be more streamlined and have more things settled out, because I just really want to talk about these things, and I just want to get to them all. And so we're just going to start off with the ones that I just left off, and I'm going to talk about ones that I started talking about and didn't get to. And the first one we're going to talk about, and these are all the good ones, so this is really a best of and not really a worst of, and that's we're going to start with the Deuce HBO show about the porn industry and prostitutes. The first season was like roll. Season 2 is when things are starting to come to an end. People are growing and changing and all that stuff. It's made by the guy who did The Wire, and so automatically it's got up the ass. And it actually has, one of those like great James Franco performances. I shouldn't say great. James Franco can be really good. He's pretty good. And I just like the source material. I like anything about history and the way it doesn't flinch at its subject matter. And this is some pretty hardcore subject matter, and doesn't shy away from the dirty grittiness of it. Even though it's a small show, and because of its subject matter, I don't think too many people watch it. I think it's the kind of show that can only be on HBO if you want to do it right. But The Deuce, if you have not checked it out, and you don't mind looking at the seedy underbelly of the world, this is a pretty darn good show. But that's all I'm really going to say about The Deuce. It is what it is. The next one we're going to talk about, though, is FX's Legion. Season 2 came out this year, and if you watched my best of movies, you'll know that I was talking about how much I love Dan Stevens. The character of David Haller, also known as Legion, also known as Charles Xavier's son, is a great, fantastic story. But it's like, when I first heard about this, I was like, how the hell are they going to make this a show? And with the brilliance of the creative force behind it, wow. This thing just decided to go bonkers on me. It gave us one of the most unique experiences in season 1, and season 2 is no different. It is so out there and so surreal, and it is not for everyone. It is not one of those shows that's easy to follow all the time. Everything about it is a mind-bending reality, like madhouse. But it's all done with some of the best performances, and it's from the guy who made Hannibal, and it's from Pushing Daisies and Fargo, all these shows that take these pretty crazy concepts and do something really interesting with them. And this guy really knows how to put a show together. Noah Hawley, I think his name is. And they really mix, some X-Men lore into it, which is really bizarre. It's also got Aubrey Plaza in a role that is so far off of April Ludgate that from Parks and Rec that she's practically unrecognizable. One of the fun parts about this show is you never know what's real, and our hero David is a very unreliable hero, and an unreliable narrator to the story. You never know really what's going on. But that's it. Season 2, I did kind of get down on near the end, but I do highly recommend, after rewatching season 2, I've kind of changed my tune on that. I got really down on making the reviews for that show because I just felt like I didn't know why it was going in the direction it was going. But like I said, in second retrospective view, I do appreciate it a lot more. And it is, again, one of the most unique things you'll ever see on television. And I guess it was picked up. I think it was picked up, and we will be getting more of it. And it does get some new life. And anybody that I've ever talked to about this show has nothing but good things to say about it. And it's one of those shows that I almost forgot to talk about because there's so much TV these days that it's hard to, you can sometimes miss things. Okay, so let's talk about another Netflix show that's pretty darn good and again, pretty unique, even if it does borrow somewhat from other things that are better, like Blade Runner. That's one of the things that I compare this to. But that's Altered Carbon with Joel Kinnaman from Netflix, another Netflix great show, also AMC show, The Killing. He was in that terrible RoboCop reboot, but I don't think, like, that was not going to be good no matter what. But Altered Carbon is a story that I love. I am fascinated by this premise, and that is, immortality. Because who wants to die? I mean, I'm sure there's some people that go, I want to live my life, and I'm gonna live it the best I can, and once I'm gone, I'm gone. But see, I'm not one of those people. I want to live forever. And I know that I have to come to terms with that myself. But this show gives me that possibility, that hope that someday, somebody's going to come up with this invention that you can put your consciousness on this thing and they create these sleeves that you can put your body into, like your mind into. It's you, just in a different body, in another host body. And I love that. And it seems like, it's not the most expensive thing in the world. You don't always get the body you want, but you can keep going. And as long as that part of you is not damaged, you can live on. I love that idea because I want that to be a thing right now. I would be saving my nickels and dimes right now if I knew that this was a possibility, to just keep going. And so that's one of the main things why it kept me going. I like Joel Kinnaman in this. And it's not the best. Thanks Belinda. I mean, it's not the best thing. So far so good. Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, if you're, when you're somebody like Mark Twain, you'll live forever if you, as long as people remember you, right? So, I mean, I guess there's that. So as long as I do something memorable, I don't know. I'm not going to go too maudlin down that path. But I like the concept of this detective it's not really him. It's just the shell. He's actually somebody else. And we get to see his backstory and where he came from. It also has one of my favorite character actors from a lot of Joss Whedon stuff. I can't remember her name. She's got a very unique name. I want to say it's when you say something like Autumn or something like that. She's got a really great name, who plays his sister. And you find out how he got into this whole mess. And then you've got the whole kind of neo-noir Blade Runner-esque storyline about who killed this guy, but he's there. I mean, somebody killed his sleeve. He relaunched himself. And just the kind of interesting locales that they take you to in this world, like the hotel owner, who reminds me of Edgar Allan Poe. If he was and maybe it is. It's been a while since I watched this show. Again, there is another scene of and I guess maybe it's a little more appropriate in this, but because it's Netflix and they like to push the envelope, there is some really hardcore stuff in this as far as violence and sex. And I don't mind it as much here because it kind of fits the world. And it's, again, yeah, I do agree with what Belinda in the chat has said about, that it's good, but it's kind of disappointing. It doesn't, as it goes on, it doesn't quite maintain that level of uniqueness as it goes on, but it is something that I am looking forward to seeing if it can continue on a little bit further. And again, originality. and something that's taking risks. Another show that I want to talk about that I barely scratched the surface on is another Netflix show and another Marvel show, and I started to talk about it, and that's Daredevil season 3. I love Daredevil, period. Comic book wise, I think Daredevil is a great character. And I'm one of those people who did like season 2 more than season 1. I thought season 1 was a great introduction, and it has some fantastic moments. Just fantastic moments. And Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin is unbelievable. And then season 2 came out, and they gave me the Punisher. They gave me Jon Bernthal as the Punisher. And that, to me, everything about that first part of that, anything that had to do with him and Daredevil was just made it for me. I do agree with what some people say about the Elektra stuff, that they didn't like that. And that was kind of the weaker part, but Elektra's a big part of Matt's story. And so you can't really tell a Daredevil story without Elektra. But season 3 brings it to a whole new personal level. Because Matt died at the end of Defenders, or, we thought he died at the end of Defenders. And he's not, and he has to learn, and they bring in his mother in this. You don't find out till later, but I mean, it's kind of written on the wall, almost literally. And they did something good with it. And they do bring back his father in flashbacks, and they start to deal with Matt's background. And they do it in a way that Luke Cage and Jessica Jones just didn't do, and Iron Fist never did. And then D'Onofrio's Kingpin. He's got to be nominated, right? He's got to be, because, and even though he doesn't get mentioned in the conversation very much when they talk about MCU villains, D'Onofrio's Kingpin's the best. At least him and Josh Brolin's Thanos are tied. D'Onofrio just brings it. And D'Onofrio can be in bad movies and be bad in them. But he can be great in bad movies. But when D'Onofrio is really good like he is in this, it is unfucking believable how great he is. And his arc in this gives so much, he humanizes this man that I read about in the comics, and I hate him. He's so vile. But they do something that makes you care. And what his arc in this goes through by the end of it, it is powerful shit. And Matt's journey through this is great. And I know that Karen Page has some haters out there, the character of Karen Page, but I really dug her story in Daredevil season 3. They've really fleshed her out. And Foggy's story is great. And they're not the best, but they had to give them something. And what worked in this was really good. I don't still think season 3 is quite as good as season 2 and season 1. But when a lot of these shows are dropping off in style and quality and storytelling and everything, season 3 of Daredevil stayed the course. And thank God for that, even though, it was axed like everything else. Now, let's see. There's even more stuff to talk about from... Well, let's talk about Ozarks season 2. I loved Ozarks season 1. I can't believe that we got a show with Jason Bateman and Laura Linney, of all people, to play husband and wife. Now, on paper, that pairing does not work for me, but the actors are so good that I just forget about like any kind of age difference or anything that might be like kind of weird about it. And I feel like Jason Bateman this is the role he was like, we didn't know he was born to play, but he was born to play this role. Because him being snarky and also smart at the same time is something he's played quite often. What we haven't gotten to see is like, what if Jason Bateman's snarkiness was used to like be kind of like the Walter White of accounting. And how him and his wife become these, to try to stay one step ahead of the people trying to kill them, how they're capable of, in their world, kind of breaking bad and bringing their family into it. And the whole thing with the hillbillies. And so you've already got me on board with with the villains in this because I can't stand hillbillies. So, so I'm all on board with like, let's fuck over the hillbillies, and then you got the Mexican drug cartel. Yeah, I'm all behind. Let's screw over the Mexican drug cartels, and it's just one of those things where they stumble through this, and you don't know how they're going to survive. Just like on Breaking Bad, you don't know how things are going to turn out. Do the hillbilly voice? Y'all think you're better than me, don't you? I don't know. But, I'm poor, but I'm proud. But I just, a ding dang do. A ding dang diddly ding dang dong. But it's just, it's such a well-crafted thing. And even though, a lot of people are trying to be the next Breaking Bad, when you've got Bateman directing and all the acting and everybody just nailing it out of the park, whether you like the characters or not, and the girl in this with the poodle hair, that's such a great actress. The one that's like always on the fence about helping these outsiders, and you never quite know what side she's on. It's just another phenomenal thing, and I'm looking. That's okay, but I really hope that this is not the last we've seen of Marty and his family in the Ozarks, trying to stay one step ahead of cartels and hillbillies, so we can always hope for more of that. Hopefully, though, it doesn't go on for too much longer so that it just loses its luster. All right, let's talk about that. Let's talk about Matthew Weiner's The Romanoffs. This show is also gotten a little divisive, but for the most part, I've gotten a good response for these reviews for the Romanoffs. I love Mad Men. It's a fantastically written show. It's one of the best character shows. It's one of the most honest shows about American life back in that time. All the way through the 60s and 70s, it really is unapologetic at how it talks about male and female relationships. And it's fascinating. It doesn't need action scenes and violence. All it needs is great writing, and it has it in spades. So when this was coming out, I was really, really stoked. And I have to say that even though some of the episodes are not as good as others, the through line to the whole thing is great. And I like that it challenges me. It gives me subject matters, episode to episode, that I don't normally would go searching for on my own. But because it's Matthew Weiner, and because he's proved to me with Mad Men that he's a great writer, I gave every single episode of this show a chance. And I have to say that I feel like I've become a better TV watcher by watching the Romanoffs. Again, this could be seen as one of those pretentious shows, like, oh, you watch the Romanoffs, la-di freaking da, like, I don't know what that is. Like I need to be like smoking a cigarette in a cigarette holder, and like wearing a monocle or something while I watch this show, sipping a dry martini in a glass. No, it's not, but I can see how some people might think that this is a pretentious show when it's really not. It's just about people, and it's about the, like family bloodlines and what can happen through heritages and the expectancy of becoming something and living up to the expectations of past history. Like when people say that they're a Romanoff, and you're suddenly hoity-toity in their minds in a way, and the pressure that can lead for some people to live up to those standards. And really, telling it in so many different ways, and so many different walks of life, and so many different angles, that it's just a fantastic piece of work from Matthew Weiner, and I really hope that it gets recognized by at least some people in come awards time. The Christina Hendricks episode here has really been the one that people either love or hate. I happen to love it, even though it is depressing as all get out. But I just love the fact that it wasn't afraid to take chances and give us an ending that we didn't see coming. So if you haven't seen the Romanoffs, I highly recommend at least checking it out once. Let's go to, what do we got next? All right. Let's talk about Preacher Season 3. Preacher is one of the best comic books I've ever read. And when I heard that Seth Rogen and his writing partner were going to be developing it, I thought perfect. And then I saw the casting, and it's just perfect. Everybody on this show is fantastic, from the littlest part to the biggest part. There are no wasted characters on this show. There are no bad characters on this show. Each season has been different, which is amazing. I love it when a show can do that, kind of like The Leftovers did. Each season is kind of a different thing. We don't just get the same thing every time, like a different version of the same thing. This is a real journey that we go on. Cassidy is one of the best characters on television. Jesse Custer is one of the best anti-heroes on television. And Tulip O'Hare is one of the most badass female characters in television, movies, comic books, whatever. And it's also balls to the walls, bananas. And season 3 just continues that pedigree to no end. And it is a little disappointing that I reviewed all these episodes and I didn't get very many views because I enjoy making these videos for Preacher. Just because it's one of the most bananas comics that you could ever read. And in this, you've got the whole Jesse goes home to his basically a succubus grandmother who is evil incarnate. You got the two guys that run the plantation with her, and they're just both disgusting and horrifying and amazingly bad people. The performances by these guys, Hair Star continues to be just an amazingly evil character. His two minions are amazingly great sub-villains. When you get interesting portrayals by your henchmen, that's amazing. The huge fat guy that's the Pope basically, or the Cardinal or the Bishop, or whatever the fuck that fat fuck is, was so disgusting. He gives Fat Bastard a run for his money as one of the most disgusting characters ever to grace TV or movies. And then let's not forget Humperdew. If you have not seen The Fate of Humperdew, you have not lived, my friend. Humperdew! You want to do the hillbilly, you want to hear the hillbilly voice, man. Humperdew, that's another great voice, man. That's Humperdew! It's so wrong. It is so wrong. And that's what's great. Is this show is so wrong on so many fucking levels, but it is so goddamn right. It is so right. And we need shows like Preacher to keep going. Also, The Saint of Killers and Hitler or Hilter, depending on if he's wearing his name tag or not, and Assface and everything. I mean, it's got one of the most greatest. I mean, we get to go to hell. We get to see the devil rocking some some 1980s heavy metal album cover looking dude. It is just fantastic. And if you haven't seen Preacher, you're really missing out on a great fucking time. So let's move on to the next thing. I could talk about that forever. Now before I get, let's kind of get to Westworld season 2. Westworld season 2. I said briefly that it wasn't as good as season 1, and that's only partially true. Why I say that is because I was disappointed in the direction they took. Our main female lead, played by Evan Rachel Wood. Whoops, my hat's breaking apart. I am going to finish happy. Work has been really tough, and now I'm playing with my hat. Great. The exciting playing with my hat montage. It just kind of came unhooked. Oh my God, it broke. My hat broke. This is a tragedy for everybody. This is a tragedy. My freaking hat broke. And now it won't fit my head. Hang on a second. Holy shit. This is what happens on live television, everyone. I broke my hat. Son of a bitch. I just bought that hat. Wardrobe malfunctions, yep. At least I didn't bend over and show the crack of my ass or anything. So yeah, Westworld season 2. It was disappointing that where they took the main character. She started out as this hero and became a villain. And even though in retrospect I like that choice, because fuck robots, because in the end that's how I feel, is that even though the humans are terrible, they built this place to live out their evil fantasies on these robots that had no choice but being made. But we're the, we gave them life, and that we shouldn't have done. And again, like artificial intelligence, none of this ever ends well. But it does have some of the best performances, and it takes a great concept that was done way back in the day with Michael Crichton's original Westworld and just amplifies it. And this season we get to see Shogun World, and we get to see the bar. Oh God, why can't I remember her name? The head madam. Wow, I can't remember her fucking name. She gets to live out her, become more of the hero and the one that's actually trying to do things, and we get to see she becomes more sympathetic. We get introduced to the Man in Black's daughter, and we get to see more of his backstory and how much of a piece of shit he is, and the whole brain fuck of, the testing of the human and robots, and putting the brains of a human inside the robots and the experiments with that. Monotonous? I don't know. I think that it could be kind of seen that way. I love the performances so much. Again, this is another show that's got Tessa Thompson, so I'm on board already. But and James Marsden, James Marsden. Marsters is the guy from Buffy. He actually gives a good performance. He's usually kind of stale, and I like that they gave him, he becomes more human than than Evan Rachel Wood's character in a way. But it's kind of gotten so far out of my purview, because it was at the beginning of last year, in February, March, that I'm kind of getting fuzzy on the details. But I don't know. Yeah, it's not for everybody, but I dig it. And now we're going to talk about two things, and really quickly, because I didn't touch on this, and I feel like shit because I didn't know that The Expanse Season 3 was last year. So, yeah, if you aren't watching The Expanse, then I feel bad for you. I am mad at myself for never watching this show until this year. Again, I have to thank a lot of people for all the support they gave me watching a show that had been out for a while. I did my first contest, my first successful contest because of The Expanse. It is, to me, the best sci-fi show that has ever been on TV, as far as realism and characters and stuff. And I'm sorry, Star Trek fans, I'm just not into you. I'm just not into Star Trek. It's just too much for me. But this gives me, never heard of this, and I love sci-fi. You've never heard of The Expanse? Well, I hadn't really heard of it either. I'd vaguely heard about it. But it had been kind of on my radar for a little while. And once I got into it, though, I couldn't stop. And I'm extremely excited for it being on Amazon, because we don't have to worry about so much about ratings now. And since it's a cult favorite, it probably won't stop with season 4. So I think we're finally, for Expanse sites everywhere, I think The Expanse has finally found a safe haven where they shouldn't have to worry about it being taken away again, at least until the story is given its proper conclusion. But yeah, Thomas James Miller is one of my favorite characters the last 10 years. And I can't believe that I like Steven Strait in something. I didn't think I'd ever say those words out loud until this show came out. Amos is one of my favorite. Even the bad guys, I love to hate them. Again, this is another one of those shows that doesn't have a weak link. The realistic sci-fi elements, doors and corners, man. Doors and corners, yep. Absolutely. And people that watch this and don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, you will once you watch The Expanse. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, go to watch The Expanse right now. But It's just so good. And again, and now I'm looking at it really quickly. I'm not gonna go to it, but Counterpart on Cinemax or Stars, I'm sorry, with J.K. Simmons. I'm a big fan of the show Fringe because one of the cool things about Fringe is it deals with multiple realities, alternate worlds, and that's what Counterpart does. It takes this very unassuming guy played by J.K. Simmons who ends up meeting a alternate version of himself that's from a different world, and in that version of the world, he's a super spy, kind of. And in our world, he's kind of like the guy who pushes paperwork for the other spies. And how he becomes embroiled in this very big conspiracy that has to do with assassins from his world coming to our world and killing other people. And it has to do with, what happens when we meet our counterparts and how we see the choices that we've made. And are we more than the sum of the choices that we make? And I love how the unassuming version of J.K. Simmons seems like he's got this sad life. And the one that's the super spy is pretending that I love, and we get to see two versions of J.K. Simmons, which if you like J.K. Simmons, you get double dosage of it here, and it's a really fantastic character piece, and just it's another great subtle sci-fi. It's not something that's slamming you with flying cars or anything. It just takes that simple idea of two worlds that nobody's supposed to know about, and the door in between, and what can happen like diplomatically, and how everybody's trying to keep it quiet and all that stuff. It's really good, and another show that I don't think enough people watch. But if you can find it or get like a free trial on Stars or something, I thank you, Belinda. I will finish Happy, and I will try to check out Dark as soon as this is a perfect time to do it too, because there's not that much to watch. But so Counterpart is the second to last thing, and I started to talk about it, and I know I've talked about it like to death, but I have to mention again basically what I find to be the best show that I've seen this year, and it is the best thing that I've seen all year, whether it's a movie or TV show or whatever. It is The Haunting of Hill House. Again, I reviewed the whole show in 2 parts on my channel. I reviewed every episode on my channel. I love everything about this. It hits me in all the right places, all the acting, from the child actors to the adult actors. The casting of both is fantastic. Carla Gugino does one of the best performances of her fucking career here. Henry Thomas and Timothy Hutton as both old and young version of the dads are awesome and haunting. That you can see the strain on their faces. The child actors are almost all of them are so well done by the kids, and their counterparts as adults it's such a tragic story, and I love that they tried to, they're selling it as this scary, haunting show, and it has legitimate scares. It doesn't have jump scares. I mean, there are times when you jump, but it's not because of some fake out jump scare. Like, there's no scene where they open up the cupboard and a cat jumps out. You know what I'm saying? If something is scary and you jump, you can call that a jump scare, but if it was a legitimate scare, it doesn't become some just random thing. Everything is earned in this show. Every emotion, and the fact that we get all these episodes to build characters that we care about. That never happens in scary shows or movies for the most part. And it is in the end, and I think I've won enough people over in my reviews that this is about a family. And the supernatural elements of it are the window dressing. It is the conflict of the family and what they have to do to stay together. That's all just the side stuff. It is all about how people live with trauma and try to overcome it, and how you have to come together. And maybe it hits me because my family is fractured in a lot of ways, and I wish I had them back, and I wish I was as close to some of them as I used to be. That maybe that's why it hits me hard. But it's also it's undeniably good. and they don't need to do a second season, and I hope that it knocks everything out of the park when it comes to awards time. So I'm glad for anybody that's checked this out. I feel better now about, I did see the Us trailer. Yes, I did. I think it looks crazy. I hope that the idea behind it is not just some fake out. I'm worried that it looks really cool and has this, I'm hoping that the reason behind whatever's going on in that movie, like I see that they're doppelgangers of each other. I'm hoping that whatever's causing this isn't something silly. I hope that there's something really, really interesting behind all this and not just based on some kind of social commentary about like how Get Out was, because I did like Get Out. I like Get Out a lot, but I felt like I don't want Jordan Peele to just make scary movies that have some sort of social commentary about like Get Out had the cultural appropriation kind of thing, except in the most dark, extreme way. It was done really well, and I really like that movie, but I hope that he doesn't just make social commentary movies. I hope that, like, I would like this to just be a scary movie for scary sake. You know what I'm saying? But if it is another kind of social commentary, at least it looks like it's being done well. I just don't want to be heavy-handed, something that I'm like, yeah, I get it, okay. But it does look good. It really does. So I'm going to wrap it up here. And so I hope that everybody that watches this appreciates that there's a second part where I could talk about some of the other shows that I kind of didn't get to talk about as much in the first part. Otherwise, if you did like this, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, all that rigmarole. Otherwise, again, this is Rob at Smirking Gun Review saying thanks for watching. Thanks for all the support. Hopefully 2019 will be just as good a year for TV as this one was. And we will see you on the next video.